This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. You know, it's interactive. We'd love to get your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live up on our YouTube channel. Hi. So just search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That is our YouTube channel. And you can catch the live stream and even post a comment on there. Our analyst this morning is Devoe. Good morning, Devoe. Welcome.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Zibby. Cool. Do you have your top 11 or your top 36?
All right. Again, the WhatsApp number 0809 440 You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're starting off with Vanguard. The Senate says that the president would make available the very much expected list of nominees, ministerial nominees, and that is set to happen within the next 48 hours.
Yes, I guess all is set. Drums have actually been rolling for some weeks now, and nobody came up to the stage. And this is simply because we've all been waiting for the president to announce his ministerial list, okay? And this includes, as they say, your top 11, your best players. Actually, there are 36 of them who will be put forward to actually uh, carry the mandate, the renewed hope mandate, and bring it to life. Okay. Now, it's coming with a bit of fanfare and a lot of um, expectation given the crisis that Nigeria is going through on all fronts, and from security to economy, etc. Now, given the movement of this administration, as the Tinubu Shetima administration, to the extent that they started making policy statements very in early days, right at inauguration, from OT law in terms of fuel subsidy to the foreign exchange harmonization, and all the other removals. To the extent that this administration was referred to as Baba Go Fast, right? And into what we hear now as Tinubunomics. The point is, these agenda, which many are waiting to see where it's going to pay us, because right now a lot of Nigerians are grueling in the pain of some of these reforms, they will not take place with only the president speaking. Whilst the president's voice has weight, he requires his men or women or his crew or his cabinet to be able to marshal this agenda out in the various spheres. Government is very big. Government is not small. There are many organs in government, many frameworks that are designed to actually bring this to pass. And it is important that every official, be it at the presidential, even at the gubernatorial, announce their men in time, or the people who are going to work with them to bring about this agenda. Now, even though this even though this this even though um, this administration had said that they would quickly do it, there there are two steps. There are two steps to bringing about the ministerial list appointment. One, it has to do with screening, which takes place at the security organizations, and then also they will pass through the Senate. And part of the old amendment, the constitutional amendment that was made in the last administration, was that any president that is inaugurated must announce his cabinet within 60 days. That's the first 2 months. And we're just 48 hours shy of that. Why has it taken so long? The point is, we didn't expect the same person who had actually been quick about economic reforms to be slow when it comes to announcing his ministerial list. And this ministerial list is going through a lot of politicking. Well, the APC has claimed that, well, they've actually had a list, but some of the names had issues with them, so they had to replace them, one thing and the other. We understand that. That is the politics involved, because from what we hear, it's going to be a mixed mash of politicians, technocrats, and a bit of people who are coming from different
So that is
sides.
speculation at this point.
It's speculation because this administration obviously is challenged, especially in terms of legitimacy. Remember, they're still in courts. In political thinking, they're doing as much as possible to ensure that they buy the support of even the opposition in as many places as they can
Buy or get.
or get. Now, the truth is, whilst we're looking at the presidential announcement on what do you call it, on ministers, this goes same for state governments. Many state governments also, we've not focused on them. Many of them have not even announced their cabinets. And in some cases, they're asking their old cabinets to continue working. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration and be sure that we check these things to ensure that government works. Remember, it is key that these ministers are appointed, and the constitutional reform requires that they're appointed or they're nominated with their portfolios. Now, in the Buhari administration, when that constitutional amendment was not done, what happened was a list of 36 went to the Senate, and literally they were being screened without purpose on what they did not know what they were going to do. So it was a very wishy-washy screening. Now it's only pertinent that they're screened with their portfolios so that the questions that the Senate members ask are targeted, and each minister must prove that he is fit for the job to be able to deliver. Agreed, Tinubu does not have a history of appointing the wrong people. He's been known in the past to appoint right square pegs in square holes, but that is yet to be proved again. And we need to see them. I'm saying this over and over because we need to get cracking, okay? Remember, there were ministries of environment, ministries of water, ministries of digital communications, finance, the economy. We will get to that point next week, but we need them to get out sooner than later so that we can get this country moving.
All right, thank you, Devoe, for that. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at smooth981. Let's move on to the nation. Now, operatives of the DSS, which is the Department of State Security, and the Nigerian Correctional Services have rearrested the suspended Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele at court in Lagos.
I won't spend much time on this story because you can either choose to watch Nollywood or choose to watch the Nigerian government. You see, that's all I had to say. The Nigerian government is enough entertainment for Nigerian citizens and even outsiders. To see a continuous, what I call it, violation or impunity at play is one of the most disgraceful things. And what happened at the courts yesterday after the embattled or suspended CBN Governor Emefiele got a bail from the courts on 20 million naira, which until he had met it, the condition was that he should be remanded at the correctional center. Remember, all this while the DSS had detained him, and they came out with one flimsy excuse that he was holding a pump action gun. And why I call it flimsy is simply because you didn't have to wait that long to have arraigned him because of that. However, I think we understand the politics involved here, not just between the political parties and government officials, also the public opinion that has been against him, because there's a lot of bad sentiment or negative sentiment against Emefiele because of people's perception that he played a huge role in keeping the the Naira redesign policy, which really grew the level of poverty and suffered many Nigerians during that season. So it's unfortunate. However, the truth about justice must be said. What's played out in terms of when he was released from the court and was supposed to go into the hands of the National Correction Services, that's the prisons, the DSS literally went ballistic on them, tore and manhandled the prisons officer because they were carrying guns, and at the end of the day forced him to go back with them. Hopefully, we hope that this administration does not follow in this same pattern. The truth is, this was the same pattern in the last administration, where lots of court obedience to court rules was selective, meaning they only obeyed the ones that were, in quotes, in their interest, and the ones that they felt that they shouldn't obey, they left it. It's not the best for democracy because you might say, oh, you don't like Emefiele, therefore it's good what's happening to him. Tomorrow, it might be your turn in the sense that your human rights or your citizenship rights are being violated simply because people don't like you. So, as they say, what is fair, agreement is agreement. The law should be honored.
Thanks, Devoe, for that. Speaking about this issue, it seems like with the display outside of court yesterday, brings into question the issue of these inter-rival or these interagency rivalries and battles.
This is not interagency rivalry. This is simply
Speaking about the interagency
Yes.
rivals, we had men of the DSS and the correctional services
Yes.
pulling, shoving, and dragging. That is some sort of disharmony between different agencies of government. So why do you think this continues to happen? We've seen it where men of the Nigerian army have gotten into skirmishes with members of the police force. It's something
Yes.
that is ongoing. What is the cause of this?
remember this same president spoke about them integrating. Why I was saying it wasn't was because in this instance, the DSS deliberately violated the law. They deliberately, there's no argument on this. They had no rights, no power or authorization to do what they did. So when any agency acts in default of constitution or the laws, you expect another agency or the powers in form to actually check them. The DSS, yes, are under the presidency, right? But that does not mean they're not without checks or balance. I'm yet to hear the position of the National Security Advisor on this. I'm yet to hear the position of the presidency on this. But you want to hear the response? The answer to that question is flying in the wind.
And let's see what messages we have coming through via WhatsApp. Abbas says the cases in court don't have much to do with how the government is rolling out its agenda, and the president doesn't need to hinge his support on that. We hope that he will give us a good and vibrant cabinet at the end of this all, and we hope he doesn't go against the executive order signed on the duration of forming a cabinet. And Dan Okuda says the clash between the DSS and the correctional body is a national disgrace. The heads of the two agencies should honorably resign. Kewe says, I don't know why the president has been slow in appointing his ministers. Orob says, what does the DSS think they have done? Yesterday's acts were a show of shame, recklessness, and sheer barbarism. No respect for the rule of law. All this going on in the court premises. It has to stop. I'm not necessarily a fan of Emefiele, but let him have his day in court and be remanded in prison custody until bail is perfected. DSS operators actually tore a senior correctional officer's uniform in a court premises. It's a case of clear hooliganism. This is beyond Emefiele right now. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. We'll take more of the stories and, of course, your comments on the other side. Stay with us.
What happened? We're boiling.
Sorry?
I thought you opened it fully now.
Are you in a state
No.
of dilemma, wondering the best way to grow
It's
your
okay, nobody's
Afolabi.
upstairs.
I'm here to tell you about
We could hear your voice.
ARM
Oh, really?
is all about ensuring your financial goals are met with ease, no matter
Was he
who you
talking?
are or what
Yeah,
you
he was
do.
on the phone.
Whether
I
you
heard
are
it through my
an
head.
investment,
Emma Sorrow.
important goals like paying school fees.
Yeah.
Listen up, you might want to go.
You're even
There-
lucky you have some.
All your rent
There was
should
something you
buy
started
some
moving,
properties
then all of a
or
sudden I was
whatever.
feeling choked.
Really? In
Yes.
here?
Yeah, no, on the it felt like I was going mute.
Oh,
So
no,
that-
because, okay, so you see this thing, yeah?
Yeah.
This shows the level of your voice. So ideally, when it's at red, it's, so that means it's too low. So the right range is,
Okay.
yeah. So when because your projection is louder and it shows that it means it's peaking, so I have to reduce the output from here. Now
Oh,
that is to control it, but
to,
yours
to
was
the
low.
ear. Oh,
Exactly.
right. Yeah, because by the time you increased it,
Exactly.
I felt like John. I was like, you did something. Okay.
Ideally, people shouldn't touch
Well,
that,
going.
but unfortunately, sometimes people do, and then when it's not set back,
Yeah.
that's what happens.
So console 101. I thank you. Okay. So we'll fly through the other
Sorry?
stories. We'll fly. Okay, just 10 minutes. So how many minutes is this behind?
I'm sorry?
So how many minutes is this? Oh, 3
About
minutes.
3 something, yeah.
So we'll fly through the other stories.
Sorry?
We'll fly through the other
Okay,
stories.
okay. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Our analyst is in. It's Devoe Okorie this morning. Let us know what your thoughts are. We see the messages coming through. Please keep them coming. We love to get your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can post a comment on there or just tweet at Smooth 981. And we're going on to the story coming from Punch. The National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has declared an indefinite strike. This was declared last night. Dr. Emeka Oji, who is the NARD president, confirmed that the strike begins.
Yes, this is, would I call it a story of concern and one of my favorites. And it's not favorites because it's anything good, but it's because why do we continue turning logic upside down? Finally, the NARD, that's the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, have declared, and let me line it in red so that people can hear and feel me. Indefinite strike. So it started today. Now, let's explain in English indefinite. Indefinite means this is not a 2-week or 3-week warning strike. This has no end until, in their own view, their demands are met. The president, Dr. Emeka Oji, was speaking to the press, and he was saying that after the meeting, they said that a lot of the issues that they had been on the table, and we all know here how the last administration kept on pushing them forward and forward and forward, right? And despite the fact that the then Minister of Labor said that they had dealt with some of their issues, NARD had always rejected those claims. Now, as usual, what are they saying? At the top of the list, they were like the implementation of the replacement policy for healthcare workers, then the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria to discontinue the downgrading of the membership certificate issued by the West African Postgraduate Medical and Surgical Colleges, the immediate payment of salary arrears, because in some states they're being owed between 4 to 18 months, the implementation of consolidated medical salary structure, that's CONMES, that's their own structure towards payments, which was supposed to have taken shape after the last minimum wage consequential adjustment. That hasn't been adjusted for them. A new hazard allowance, and this hazard allowance is not new. It's been on the table since COVID. Let me repeat myself. This hazard allowance has been on the table since COVID, and the domestication of the Medical Residency Training Act, especially where it concerns the hazard allowance. If you've been in the hospital like many of us have been, you would see, especially during the times of COVID, the risk that many of these medical personnel, both from nurses, lab to doctors, have to put themselves through. And to imagine that it got to a point that many of them were not even given the safety kits to be able to treat patients. And if those of you who still remember when some hospitals would tell you outrightly, go and get your own safety kit before you come to the hospital, because we are not given, so we must have it before we start. While some had to manage as little as a mask, meaning using a mask for almost 2 to 3 weeks. Now, the doctors have said that it's been out since. They've given the administration clear enough time, even though many had said that they should wait for them to, appoint their ministers and settle down, that they're not going to keep waiting for them. In view of their issues, all right, as against the issues of ASU with education, as against the issues of PTA with our secondary and primary schools, as against the issues of transport workers, every sector has problems. So it's left to each professional sector or each industrial sector to define how they want to go about working with this administration. The same way we heard the Bread Association saying, well, with the new FX rates, they're going to have to bring about an increase. It's going to be a full day for everybody because everybody's affected. And the last on the list is how they've said in terms of employment that doctors are still jackpotting, they're still leaving, many of them simply because they are overworked. Usually the doctor ratio count by United Nations is 1 to 600. In Nigeria, it's almost totally 1 to 6,000 if the figure is not above that. And the Nigerian doctors that used to be above 100,000, I think At the last counts, they're shortly below 40,000. 40,000 doctors treating 200,000 people, it won't work. At the end of the day, you're not going to get efficiency or effectiveness. Yes, there's a whole state of emergency required for the health sector, but at this point in time, this administration is going to have to deal with this matter as soon as possible, which was why I was hounding that they need to quickly announce the ministers so that some people empowered by the Constitution can get to work and address these issues. Remember the fallout of when NARD goes on strike, that's the resident doctors. Out of the 40,000, the resident doctors make up about 60% of the doctor capacity within the country as a whole. And if they down tools, who's left? And you know the consultants and those doing housemanship may not be able to carry the weight. And when they're not enough, it means they were already overworked. Imagine how far they would go. And that's one of the major issues, because some doctors who are supposed to go on off, you hear a doctor saying that he has been on duty for over 1 week. For what? How? How does a doctor work full day for across 1 week without a break? Some 2 weeks. Some, even if you pay them, you're asking them to continue collecting money and stay on the job. They're not machines. So this is the federal government's work, and that leads to a lot of as exacerbated conditions because of no proper treatment, and in some cases people die. So how do I say, on whose side do we stand on? Doctors too have a point. The masses also have an issue. Government also has an issue. But that's why they were elected. We're not going to pity them. We're going to ask them to do their jobs now and find some kind of solution to the challenges within the medical center. Within the medical arena.
Devoe. Tayo via WhatsApp says, I've not been impressed by Emefiele's tenure as CBN governor. He was more of an investment banker and someone grounded on macroeconomic issues. With that being said, I'm waiting for the DSS tweet on yesterday's incident and wondering if corrections will initiate contempt proceedings against the DSS for flouting court order and assaulting its officers in the court premises. The DSS have in so many ways denied even the EFCC access into their buildings, and now it's clashing with corrections. Who is next? Okay, this one is from Emeka. Emeka says, what is playing around Emefiele with the DSNs and corrections is the extension of corruption in Nigeria. Gilbert says, on the expected ministerial list, I'm not excited. Reason, since 1999 till date, how have the activities of previous ministers impacted the life of the average Nigerian citizen? Has there been any significant positive growth? The answer is, well, somewhere there. Okay, El Como says, Devoe, the DSS were investigating an allegation of funding the sit-at-home violence in Southeast. So Emefiele got an injunction against the DSS to bring the case against him, and they've been unable to vacate that injunction. Apparently, the DSS blocks the NCS from taking Emefiele away, as they will be unable to complete their investigation. Okay. And we'll come back to the messages shortly, but let's go on to the next headline. This headline is coming from Vanguard. NAS moves against electricity tariff hike, estimated billing.
Well, National Assembly, yes, is doing their job in this instance, and I think I need them to move faster because there are many, many issues that require constitutional or legislative reform. In this instance, they're moving against the electricity tariff hike and the estimated billing. Remember, part of the OT law affected electricity tariffs, which the president said the 50 billion monthly to bring it to about 60 naira per kilowatt will be removed. So at a point, it will averagely move to about 100 naira per kilowatt, which means if you're spending 10,000 naira to buy, you need about 14,000 naira now. Now, obviously, not only will that affect those who are metered, for those who don't have meters, you can imagine what estimated billing would come to. Now, the discos have not been able to implement this simply because they need an approval from the regulatory agency, NERC. So that is why the National Assembly is coming in, speaking for the people that they should allow the poor breathe. Don't choke them. Now, they're insisting that it is bringing more untold hardship. Obviously, that goes without saying. and they're asking the NERC to decentralize the proposed engagement with stakeholders, okay, scheduled for Abuja. Now, this is basically the regulatory agency playing their role in trying to have a stakeholder meeting with you and I, but it's only taking place in Abuja. I wonder how many people NERC is going to ship to Abuja to have this meeting. So the National Assembly is asking them to host this meeting with Nigerians in the 6 geopolitical zones, so that when you make your move, it will not be that Nigerians have not heard from you as to the issues that need to be done. I think that's very instructive. So we hope to see what move the regulatory agency on electricity takes, and it's from the outcome of that that we will know whether approval will be given for this tariff hike.
All right, we've got a couple of minutes to go. This one's from The Guardian. 63% poverty rate in Nigeria worries UNICEF.
Yes, a very, very, what I say, sometimes we don't have to hear these things from outsiders. But UNICEF is raising this alarm over the new statistics, apart from the multidimensional poverty rate, having to do with this challenge that we've had. Remember, this story is not here, but there's still a challenge as to the palliatives, or to the steps taken by government to cushion the effect of the various increments that Nigerians are having to deal with, meaning the fuel increase at, what's the last price? 560, 570. I called someone in Abuja last time. They said they were buying at 700. Yeah, and also Port Harcourt. Now, they're also dealing with the FX harmonization, which meant officially most people are buying, I think the last rate I heard was between 777 and INE and about 850 in the parallel markets. Now, all these changes have immense direct effect on Nigerians. It's brought about hardship because your income hasn't risen to the same effect. Now, as we say, those that had have less, and those that had less before have nothing now. So they've joined the list. And from UNICEF's point of view, how does Nigeria address this sharing, even though they're looking at working with the social register, that 8,000 to 12 million homes actually may not go anywhere. And they're looking at the fact that many of these homes contain children, as well as female and the girl child. How are they going to cope with this challenge, given the fact that we are still finding one way or the other out of this? But beyond UNICEF, I think Nigerians themselves know enough. If you haven't heard it, I'm sure by the time you eat once in 2 days, it's enough for you to get angry and hungry. And that is why between the National Assembly, the TUC, and the NLC, and literally at a certain point, Nigerians are not going to wait for these unions to get done with government. I think Nigerians at some point will need to take up this matter directly in terms of civil protest to this government. You cannot have yanked up these things overnight and then spend this much time in trying to decide how you're going to assist them in bearing the agony and the hardship of this economic reform. It just cannot work that way.
Thank you, Devoe, for that. I'll take a few messages quickly. This is Tom. Tom says the ministerial list is supposed to be pending till the outcome of the election at tribunal. That's not what the law says.
The law says 2 months.
Ajayi says it's a shame that the DSS continues to desecrate our judicial system with so much impunity. The principal duty is to protect state functionaries and not the constant assault on the human rights of citizens in the guise of prosecution. Tayo says doctors have been taken for a joke. If the government are not tying them down or trying to with legislation, they're being owed on consistent basis and they expect them not to leave the country. The government are forcing them to be desperate and it's not good. Ikechukwu says, I think the doctors should stop being selfish and collaborate with other health workers and push their demands together for better results. They're not the only health workers at risk and don't get breaks or inadequate funding or remuneration. Their demands are genuine, but the way they turn back to fight others in the health team can also be annoying.
Ikechukwu has a personal issue.
Something tells me Ikechukwu is a health worker.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for your messages. Thank you for listening, and special thanks as well to Devoe, our analyst this morning, for joining us on Freshly Pressed. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
The headlines.
Yes, the way you said.
One sec.
Okay.
The news.
I was about saying that the way you said pressed, it's about time people start serving us grape juice.